Well, hi, everybody. We're going to be doing Copic class today. My name's Joanne, and some of you may have taken a class from me before. And if you have, welcome back. And if you haven't, welcome. Alrighty, so we're going to be doing 3 different snowman cards, and they're all being made with this set here. It is Say It With Stamps, and it's photo by Photoplay. They're a really versatile little set of stamps, and you can also get the die cut with it as well. So they come in the package by themselves. So if you don't want it, I am a fan of fussy cutting, so I will be doing some of that in this group today, and we'll go from there. Anyway, this is my very first time doing anything where I'm making tapes, so I'm really nervous. So let's just get started. So with Copic markers, you need to use the right kind of paper to stamp on and the right kind of ink. So I'm just going to go over that quickly. You need to use Express It blending cardstock. Teresa has it in stock. And also you need to use, this type of ink. And it is, I use tuxedo black, but there is also a brown and a gray, which is great if you want to have no lines in your Copic image. So this is, you need to use Memento. There is a couple of other kind of inks that you can use, but this is the one that I like the best. So I use this. And of course, the Misty is an amazing tool when it comes to positioning your stamps, which you're going to do with this one, because this card has all the images printed on a sheet of paper, and then it's assembled into the card. So we quite often will cut out images, but this one, it's all printed, the saying and everything on the same card. Throughout this, I'm going to be showing you the different Copics that I'm using. So if you want to pause right there, you can gather your Copics and you can see which ones that you want to gather up. I really invite you to choose your own colors if you're not crazy about the colors that I'm using, but if you want to, you can follow along with these. Quite often, the very hardest thing to do is choose your colors. So this is quite helpful. So for the snowman, I always use BG 4 zeros, BG 3 zeros. And the reason I do that is BG is blue-green. And just if you use the lighter shades of the B series, then you're going to have it just a little bit cooler. Whoops, it's hard to figure out where to put this. There we go. Can you see those there? So that's the 2 I'm using. I think it's upside down for you. Let's do this. Okay. Maybe I'll get onto this. Anyway, so those are the ones that I'm going to be using. As I said, the blues are just that little bit more cooler. So if that's what you want to use, that's great too. You can use grays to color white. Snowman. It doesn't make quite as much sense, but if you're going for that old-fashioned look, that may be what you want to use. All right, so we're going to start with these 2, and I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is BG 4 zeros. And with Copic coloring, always take off both your ends, because that will help you to not have blops. I don't know what the technical term is, but that's what I call it. So we're going to start with the snowballs, because that's kind of one of the easiest things. So we're going to do the snowballs and the snowman, snow person, in these colors. So we're going to leave a little bit of white when we're coloring these. So we're going to just flick it from the left-hand edge, because being right-handed, I tend to always have my light source coming from the right-hand side. So you want to leave the very lightest part on the right-hand side then. When you're coloring a round sphere, you want to, I'm not worried about the snowballs because they're very small, but now we're going to the main part of the image. So you want to try to create the illusion that it is round. So you need to have dark on all the edges. But I'm working with the lightest color here. So I'm going to just go underneath the hat just to give a shadow. And I'm going to come from the left-hand side. I'm going across the bottom, and I'm going to do a little bit from the right-hand side. So you can see that there's a lighter spot in the middle. So I'm going to show you that a little bit closer maybe. So you can see that there's a white center still. These are very light colors, so they will be harder for you to see. But if you try it on a scrap piece of paper, you'll see that you're going to have this illusion of shadow. So I'm going to do it under his scarf, again from the left-hand side going in, again across the bottom, and again from the right-hand side. I'm also going to do some under this side of the scarf because the scarf will be creating a shadow. So you can see that I have a white spot in the middle still. And we're going to do that again on the third. We're just going to do this because we want to create a shadow. We're going from the left-hand side across. And every time you do this, it's going to be just a little bit different. So you just flick across. So we're now going to go to the darker color. No, I think that's upside down for you. It's the BG 3 zeros, not a big difference. Take both ends off. And we're just going to do a little bit, very little bit on the snowballs from the left-hand side, because don't forget that you still want to keep that lighter image on the right-hand side, because that's where my light is coming from. So we'll just leave those. Now we're going to go underneath the hat, just a faint, thin line, because you can always add more. It's really difficult to take the dark away. I'm going to go under his nose, just that little bit. And I'm going to do some short flicking from the left-hand side. A little bit across the bottom to create a bottom. Now on this side, we want to make certain that we leave as much light. But to create that round, we've got to put a little bit of dark, just a little line of dark around that right-hand side. Okay, we'll just leave that. Again, we're going to go underneath his scarf. We're going to flick from the left-hand side across the bottom and just a little line on the right-hand side. And again, we're going to create a little more shadow underneath his scarf on the left-hand side of his scarf. You can maybe see that we're starting to get some shade in there. So again, we're going to go under that middle snowball, a little bit of flicking from the left-hand side. Then we have the bottom, get a little darker. And then on the left-hand side of his scarf, the bottom of his scarf. And again, just a faint line to create that roundness. Put those lids back on so that you know exactly, if you take all the lids off of both of these at the same time, lay them here. When you put them back on, it'll be that much more difficult to put them on the right marker. And then you start when after a class, I go through my markers and there's almost always a wrong cap on the wrong marker. So I need to fix those. So we're going back to the lightest color, which is BG 40. And we're just going to do that little bit of blending. So I'm just going to start on the darker, just flick across, try to keep a little bit of that white on the right-hand side. Just creates a little bit of dimension for you. Very, very small pieces. So again, it's more difficult. So underneath his hat, we had some darker, we had some lighter. So let's just blend that down. We're going to blend this across. Looks like I'm using the wrong color, so I'm going to check. Nope, it's the right color. That will fool you every time because it's wetter than the other colors. So we're just blending these colors just a little bit, trying to create that sphere. There, I think we did pretty good there. So we're done with those. We're just going to leave that. You can always come back and blend a little more if you think you would like more blending. Once we get the colors on there, it takes away from that blue on that white, so it makes it a little brighter. We're going to do the twigs, which is E35. So we're going to take our both ends off, and we're just coloring on there ever so slightly. I always turn so that I'm curving that way, because that's the way that my hands like to curve. And there's the twigs. I don't do any different colors on them. Excuse me. I just draw the color on there just to give it some dimension. You could leave them black if you'd like to. Again, if your color scheme is different than this, then you may want to just leave them black. All right, so now we're going to do the hat and the gift and the scarf, and we're going to do them all together so that when you have the blues out, then you're going to use them on everything on the card that it's going to be used. This will save you a little bit of time. So we're going to use B52 and B06. So I have those here. Now, this is not following the color codes that we had been doing in past classes. I'm really inviting you to just explore. I'm going to show you, this is the color chart that is available, and I have it in a sleeve so that it doesn't get wrecked, and so that's why it's shining a bit. This I printed on Copic paper, and then I put the colors on. So these are exactly what the color will look like on the Copic paper. So this is B06. That's this one right here. The color cap is pretty close. So I'm really inviting you to just look through your markers, find 3 that go together or 2 in very small areas. We tend to use just 2 because it's very tedious to use 3 in very small areas. And when you're doing something like a Christmas card that someone's going to receive, hold on to for a couple of months on their mantle, and then they're going to probably throw it out, I wouldn't spend the time to make this perfect, but I also wouldn't want you to just color it just plain, because that's just no fun. There's no shadowing in it and so on. So, All right, so now we're going to go to doing his hat and the gift at the same time because I used the same colors on his hat as I did on the gift. I'll show you a little bit closer maybe. There's a little bit of the blue in both of those, so I might as well color them both at the same time. All right, so I'm starting with the blue because that's his pom-pom. So I'm going to color it all in that color. And I'm skipping 2 because I have 3 colors on the go. So I'm going to do this blue and this one blue. And try not to go out of the lines because we're not cutting this out. So you want to try to stay in the lines best as possible. There is a marker that you can use as an eraser. It's the 0, and then they say it's a blender. It's the farthest thing from a blender, so don't use it as that. Not sure why they call it that. They could be calling it an eraser. All right, so now, sorry, I'm using B06, and I'm just gonna flick from the right. These are very dark colors, so be very light in your touch. When I'm doing these little pieces, I'm just doing a little bit from the left-hand side, going across like that. On the gift, it's kind of, I don't know where the light's hitting it. So I'm just going to put some shading in there and let's see how that looks. So now for sure you want to go back to B52 so that you can blend in your colors. And of all the colors, B52 makes me think of bingo. And of course, 52 is not under the B, but it just reminds me of bingo all the time. Makes me laugh. So these small pieces, they just don't take any time to do, but they're so important because they're going to be the brighter spots on your card. So now we're moving on to the red section of the hat and the gift, and I'm using R02 and R08. All the markers I'm using today are available at Teresa's store that you can purchase. Her store in Pastimes on Main Street. So you can go and check those out. So I just have those 2 little spots of red. And
physically down at the store.
Oh, they're not physically down at the store, I'm being told.
Call.
So you can call Teresa and get them if you're interested in purchasing them. I have really I was over the moon about Copics the first time I used them. And most people who know me in the scrapbook and card making world know that I hate coloring with a passion. But oh my goodness, when I started doing Copics, I really enjoyed it. While I'm doing the bow, just try to give it some dimension. It's so small, but it really makes a difference if you can just put a little bit of that dark red in there. It absolutely gives it dimension. So we're going back to our number 1 color again, which is R02, and we're just going to blend those little pieces in there. I'm always amazed when using Copics on how the little tiny details make the really big difference. I'm lucky enough to have a grandson who is enjoying Copics. He has since he was little. We're moving on to the green color now, which is YG41 and YG45. And just recently, I was explaining to him why Copics were invented. They were invented for anime in Japan. And he said, what? And that sparked his interest once again to start coloring with Copics. I just stopped here for a second because when I did his scarf around his neck, I went that way. But now I want to do the downward, and it just makes a little bit of difference if you do it in the way that it is naturally. The material would be going down the scarf. So whether or not you can see that difference, I can feel that difference. And I don't know, it makes it more realistic to me, I guess would be the word. So now I'm going to color green in the present. And I'm using the YG45. And again, we'll just do a little bit. This one, I'm just going to leave the little light over there just to give it a little bit of difference. Under his chin always creates a shadow. On this side of the scarf, a little bit over here. Oops, I did a little bit too much, but it'll be fine. I'm gonna do a little bit of line there, which is different than my sample. I need a little bit of shade there. And I'm gonna do just a little bit on the bottom. Oh, big gift. So there'll be a little bit of shadow from the ribbon, from the top of the box. And then the bottom have just a little bit of shadow. Go back to the YG41. And just blend it in. Across. And this one, I'm just gonna shade that way. I do see a spot that I missed with the, sorry, I'm whispering, I'm talking to myself now. I missed this under his chin there, and it's gonna bug me if I don't do it, so I'm gonna do it. Oops. Don't use the chisel part for that. Doesn't work. That chisel end is for doing lettering. Because after they were invented, Copics were invented for anime, they were then used by architects. And they used the chisel end. And then for folks that do lots of lettering and so on. So let's do that carrot nose there. We're using YR00 and YR04 that way. Holy man. My co-conspirator here, Green, just giggles at me for doing, wow. Yeah, Joanne, I'm sure. Anyway, so let's do that little carrot. So I'm coloring the whole thing in with the YR00 and then YR02. So the shadow will be on the bottom of his carrot like that. And then a little bit here, just so that you know that it's sticking out of the snowman's face. And a little bit of blending. So there you go. That is the snowman. But snowmen do not float in the air. So we need to create a bit of ground. So I'm using C series. So wrong way, there we go. C0, C1, and C2. These are going to create the ground, and they're also going to create the shadow. Because we stamp this right on paper, and we're going to use the whole paper for on the card, we want to create a bit of a shadow, popping him off of the paper, just that little bit. So we're going to do the ground first. So we start with the lightest color, C0. So we're just creating ground underneath. The present doesn't need to be floating, so we just color. Oh, and I should be doing this on scrap paper. Now I'm taking, sorry, C1, and now we're just a little bit more, just under a little bit, just so that we can pop it up a little bit. And then I'm going to take C2 and create a little bit more depth, just a little bit. And now he's sitting on some ground. The gift is sitting on ground. And we're going to go back over with the C0 because we're going to just blend that all in just a little bit. There we go. That will lighten just a little. So now we're going to create the shadow behind the snowman with the same markers. So the C0 will be the beginning, and we're going to, all this time we've been having the light coming from the right-hand side. So we're going to create a shadow on this side. So starting where by his hat, you just start at the snowman and pull out. And that in itself will create a bit of a shadow. And if you do a little bigger near where the bulge of the snowman balls are, then we're going to create a bit of a shadow. So of course I meant the big parts of the snowman. So let's go back with C1, and we're just going to create a little bit more shadow. Not as big of flicks. And you can see a shadow being created and looking not great. First of all, it'll lighten up, but we're going back with C1. So we're not using C2 in this. That would be too dark. So we're just using C0 and C1. So now we'll go back with C0 and blend it in. Okay. So you can see that it's blending in a little nicer. Oh, I didn't remember to do it on the side of the present. So I'm going to go, sorry, with C0. Just a little bit, just to create a little bit of a depth. C1. Just a little bit of that. Just those little details, I think, help it pop out. All right. So that's our snowman so far. We have one more step to do, and you can see the shadows. You can see the bow popping off of there just a little bit, just to give it some depth. So there's a series of pens. Oh, there it is. And I bought these at Teresa's store when she had the store, and they're at Spica, and they are used with Copic, and I use them on things like this where you just want that little bit of sparkle. So the saying that we used from this stamp set is "May your Christmas sparkle." So I am going to use this pen. You can use glitter pens. You can use, oh, I can't think of what those are in the little tubes and stickles. You can use those. I choose to use this because I have them. So I'm going to just write right over top of the Copic, and these work well with Copic. I'm not 100% sure how Stickles works with Copic, but you can try it on anything, on a scrap paper and do it. I'm going to sparkle up the snowballs here. And I'm going to sparkle up the gift. So I'm going over the bow. There is many different colors you can get in the Spica pens, but the one that I'm using is just called Ice, and so you can use it on any color. So, oh, and I think I did his scarf as well, just to give that a little bit of sparkle. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can just add a little bit. All right, we are done with this card. So I will bring it up a little closer, see if you can see the sparkle. Maybe not, but it shows you the different shading, the shadow that we created, the ground we created, and it just makes it show off your coloring for the snowman just that little bit more. So when we made this card, we used these papers that are available from Teresa. She's going to be making kits out of this. So I used the plaid on there. I used this black pattern paper, and I used the red to just pop the card off there a little bit. So then, and then I had just assembled it like that. All right, so that is that one. I am going to get ready for the next card then, and we'll move on to that one. That card, that next card that we're going to be doing is this one. I call it I Heart You Snow Much. I am just going to get the colors together for this one. Here we go. So I have my markers here. I need to use some from the previous one because like I said, I always use the BG 3 zeros and 4 zeros for the snowman themselves. This card has cut, I have fussy cut out the snowman and the present and the trees and this piece here. And then I popped them up off the card a little bit. I think you can see that a little bit. All right, for this one, we used a white base. And then for this piece here, I used this patterned black again. For the background, there's a sheet of paper that is ombre. And so I used, it doesn't matter, it wouldn't matter which piece of the paper you used for that. And then there's a sheet of paper that has all of these different sayings on it. And we use this one here and I cut it out. And I'm going to show you my technique for cutting out to do that one there. All right, let's get started with the coloring. So I have stamped on one paper the different pieces that we're going to be coloring. Again, we used this stamp set, and there is the die set that goes with it. So I'm just going to grab some water here. I'm talking way more than I normally do. So let's see here. So this is the different colors that we're using. Lots of different colors, try to create dimension and depth just with coloring. So let's just get started with this because it's all basically the same, the coloring. We'll just go through them pretty quick and then assemble the card. So we have the BG 4 zeros and BG 3 zeros. I tend to, whenever I'm coloring something that has clothes on it. So if I'm doing coloring the dolls, let's say, or coloring the snowman, then I color from the back to the front. So you got to have the snowman there before you put the scarf and the hat on them. So that would be the reason that I'm doing that. So again, we're just making the sphere with the snowman here. We're creating some roundness with markers. So I use the BG40s. Now I'm using, oh, I actually did that wrong, but that's okay. There, we'll show you that you can actually fix this. So now I'm using the BG00. I made a mistake there. So I'll just color him in a little bit more, give a little bit of blending with that darker. Pull this out just a little bit more. It's actually blending quite nice. So we're all good to go. So we'll just keep coloring like that. This one won't need a ground because it's going to be cut out. So that is the snow person. So now we're going to do the pink on the hat. I chose to go with the pink tone on this one just to show that you can have difference in that. So we're using RV52 and RV55. So we'll use the light one this time instead of using the wrong one like I did on the snowman. So we're going to color that whole pom-pom with pink, skip 2, because we have 3 colors again, skip 2, do this one, skip 2. Okay, so then I chose to do the scarf in pink because we skipped 2. So again, if you color in the line or in the direction that the material would be, just seems to make a little bit of difference. All right. So that's the pinks. Now on the car or on the present, again, I am going to color them at the same time. Like I said, it does save just a little bit of time so that you're not having to pick up those markers again and color with them. Okay, so we're going to the RV55. I'll do this before I forget. So again, because this is so small, you just want to try to create some depth. I think that works. Okay, so now we're going to go to the pom-pom. Like that. These ones, it's going to be your guess is as good as mine on where the shading should go. Now on the scarf, so right along the top there, because it would be curving into the chin of the snow person, put the shading on the left-hand side of the scarf where it's tying. Knots are always a little bit darker than the rest of the material. So you can make this up here a little bit darker. I'm going to go across the bottom of the scarf just to create some depth. That's a really small spot, and there would be a shadow from both the scarf coming over and from the carrot. So we're going to create or fill that in with the dark. Now we want to get that little edge of dark, and then of course, because it's going under the chin. So now we'll go back to RV52 and we will blend those colors. Okay, so we'll do on the bow here first. So these colors don't pop as much as the red did on the other snow person. So that's it. This is a more subtle card coloring wise. Okay. See, those are all blended in. Just show you that a little bit closer. And even the mistakes that I made on the snow person when I was doing the round balls, then it's still blended in okay. He's a little more blue than I would have liked him to be, but he's okay. So let's go to the blue color now. So we're using, for the blue, we're using BG 32 and BG 18. So again, if you've been in my classes before, you'll know that those colors are out of the sequence that we normally do, but you can just look at the caps and or your paper where you've done all the coloring on and see that they actually look quite nice together. So we're going to go to beside the pink here with the blue. And here, whoop, this one here. Yeah, no, green, blue. There we go. Sorry. And then the brim of the hat is in the blue. So we'll go across like that to try to give the illusion of the material going this way. And on the gift, we did blue on the bottom. So when you're doing this layer, it just doesn't matter if you get it exactly filled in, because you are going to be going over it again with that light color. Now we're using BG 18. So the brim, under the ribbon, the brim, and across the bottom. It's kind of what I do with square things like that. These little tiny pieces on the hat just need such small amounts of blending on them across the bottom, just to show that it's tucking under his, onto his face. And then we'll go back to BG 32 and we'll blend this in. Just that little bit. Okay, so just go across this way. Just gonna try to put a little bit more there, lay down a little bit more, because it's just not blending how I would like it. So then you just go slowly over it, lay down another layer of this color, and there it's blended much better than it was. Excuse me. All right, so we've done the pink and the blue green, and now we're going to use YG 13 and YG 17 for the green part of it. So I'll take the lighter color, YG 13. And YG 13 is also a color that we're going to be using on the trees, but I'm not going to do that now because I need to use a lighter color as well on the tree. So we'll just do the gift and the snowman. But I'll keep them handy because that's the tree I'll do next then. So again, you're just coloring this in quickly and getting the darker color, YG 17. Shading is minimal on such small little areas, but it's quite fascinating really how it can make such a difference. I'll go back to YG 13 and blend those in. If at any time you want to pause this, go right ahead, because it will give you time. I color pretty fast. I wouldn't want you to try to keep up because it would just be too difficult. And I don't want you to be stressed doing coloring. Coloring could be a really, really nice, easy thing to do. So we're going to do the carrot, and we're going to use the same one as we did for the other card, YR00 and YR02. So we'll do 00, YR00, and we'll take that little carrot, color it in like that. Just do a little bit of shading across there, down the left-hand side, a little more than that. You don't do flicks on something this small. You would be hard pressed to control them. So you just color, just an up and down coloring. To finish off the snowman, I have a Copic Multiliner, and Teresa has had these. I'm not sure that she has some in stock right now, but I'm sure it's something that she could order for you. This one is 0.05, extremely fine. And I'm going to use that to brighten up his eyes and the kohl for his mouth, just to give it that little bit of brightening, because stamping can't always create that really dark black that you would like to have. So I just colored his eyes and his mouth a little bit darker with that. Just gives a little bit of nice detail. So now we're going to do the trees. So I have them two different colors so that the lighter color is forward on the card, and lighter automatically makes your mind see that it's closer. So I'm going to do this one, the light color. So for the front tree, that's what I called it on here. I used YG01, YG13, and YG17. So you can see that these colors are a nice shades together. They will complement each other. So the YG01 is almost a yellow, but we're going to cover the whole tree in that. Now, when you are going to cut things out, you can go over the lines and not worry about it. With the dies, they do leave a little bit of white around the item that you're cutting out. So you would like to be more careful with your coloring still, because you don't want it to go over. So I used YG01. Now I'm going to use YG13, and I'm going to start creating the shadows. I'm going to take a drink of water here. So again, I have my light source coming from the right-hand side. So I would automatically start flicking from this side. Again, this is pretty small, so you want to be careful. This would be something you'd want to do slowly. Under the star, of course, but that's been done with that side. This part of the tree on these fictitious Christmas trees, they would create a shadow because there's a tree part on top of that. So you want to create a bit of a shade there, and then across the bottom. These pieces are a little bit bigger, so you can create a little bit more shade. Go across a little farther, and then across the bottom. Now I'll be using YG17 sparingly, creating that little bit more depth. So I'm just going to do a little bit under the stars like that, just a line down and a line across the bottom. Very, very small amount, little bit of flicking, just a little bit of flicking. You see these triangles are just a little bit bigger, so you can start using that method. Little bit of flicking, little bit across here. Now, because these pieces are as small as they are, if you've been in my classes, we go using the first color, then the second color, go back to using the first color, then we use the third color, then the second color, then the first color. When you're working with something this small, I don't go back and forth between 1, 2, and then 3. Now I'm going to go back with my second color. After my third color of YG17, I'm going to go back to my YG13 and use that to blend in that dark, maybe creating a little bit bigger space where I'm using my second color. So flick down, blending it in a little bit. So you'll end up putting more of the second color than you had started out doing, but you're just blending in that third color. So you can see how it's creating the depth. Now I'm going back to my first color, which was YG01, and I'm going to go across the whole part, just blending it in that little bit more, going down, going across, going down, going across, going down, going across. All right, that's the front tree. We'll do the star is YG00 or Y00 and Y15. It is such a tiny spot, the star, yet you want to give it the significance it deserves. So you want to give it 2 colors. You could just do 1 color on there and it would be fine. But I really like trying to give it that dimension. So you put in the Y15 just on the edges over here, and it just helps it create dimension. Going back to Y00, and that's the star for that one. The trunk on the front tree, we're using YR24 and YR27. Again, a very, very little spot that way. And it does create the dimension though. So this is the YR24. Just fill it in. YR27. The tree is going to create a shadow coming from there and down the side of the trunk and across the bottom. Just giving it that little bit of depth. Going back to YR24, blend that in. And that is the front tree. Now we'll go to the back tree, which on the card is this one here. So we're going to use YG41 and YG45 for the tree part. Oh, I've got a bling on here. I wonder how that happened. Okay, take those caps off. Don't forget that part. Color in the green. So this will be the same as doing the other tree, just different colors. I'm not too worried about getting all the spots with this time going through, because I will be going back over it. So on the back tree, we're only using 2 colors because it is at the back. It's just not as important as that front one. So we're saving a little bit of time just using 2 colors. So now we used YG41. Now we're going to use YG45, and we're going to create some depth by putting in some shading. And this can be done quickly without worrying too much on where it's going. When people look at this card, they will look at the snow person more than they will anything else, but the trees create some depth for you. Going back to the YG41. And so now I'm going to do the blending. So this time over, I want to make sure that I get all the little white spots covered. I'm going to try to blend that down in there, going across. All right, same all the way down, covering those white spots. Copic markers, of course, can be refilled. So they're a forever marker, which makes them a little more cost efficient than you would think. The star on this tree is Y32 and Y38. Again, I'm using a little bit darker colors as the background of in the back tree is what I mean. Because it is farther away from the viewer is seeing it as farther away. That's the star. The trunk is E35 and E18. A little darker again than, whoops, than what we did for the front. This is the E35. We'll just color it like that. The E18 is a beautiful, rich, dark color. Create some shadow with that. And blend it with the E35. All right, so the pieces of the card are colored. And so now you would use your dies, the die cuts, or you would fussy cut them out, all the pieces. Plus, so I have fussy cut them out because that's what I like to do. Seem to have lost a tree. Oh, maybe this is it. Yep, that's it. Okay. So here are my pieces of the card. I don't have the, okay, that's okay, because I will, you can see where the placement is. So this is a part of a sheet of paper. I think I was showing you before. And so I'm going to cut this one out, but I want to take it off of this background. So I learned to fussy cut from a lady in Disneyland, and she was doing the silhouette portraits on the main street of Disneyland. And we stopped in and had our family done. And when she was done, I had lost about 30 or 40 pounds off my face. And she said, oh, wishes do come true in Disneyland. And I will never forget her for that. I just think it's so much fun. But I watched her cut, and she held her scissors still. oops, I'm so sorry. She held her scissors still and she moved the paper. So you see how I'm fussy cutting, but I'm holding my scissors still and I'm turning the paper to cut each of the curves in this little sign. And I love fussy cutting. I don't like fussy cutting on film, but I do like fussy cutting. So I choose to do that. Obviously with more intricate pieces, it takes a little longer. But when you're cutting in here, when you're fussy cutting, I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me see, there we go. When you're cutting into a place like that, do it before you cut out the snow person, because then you have a big piece of paper to hang on to while you're going in there. And then you come around and you snip like that. It's tricky, but it works. Must have a marker on there. All right, so we have cut out all these pieces except for the gift because I've lost it somewhere in the package. So I'm gonna cut that out for you. So cut out the hardest part first, which would be the bow. So I'm going to get right in there like that. Turn my paper, go around the bow, always turning your paper and not your scissors. I keep wanting to hold this closer to me because that makes way more sense, but then you can't see it. So cut that off, go in there a little bit, cut straight, snip up to where you want it to be. These honeybee scissors are the best, in my opinion, for fussy cutting. All right, so now we're going to assemble the card, and there's not really much to it that you wouldn't already know. There. So you have your white base. I've cut my black pattern paper to go on there, and I would put this there now. I will attach it so that I can show attaching the snowman. So I use this one. It's the Easy Runner. And oh man, it's my fave. It's not as big as one of the ones that you can get. So it's the right weight and size for my arthritic hands. So it works well for me. So now I'm going to attach that little I heart you so much and place that there. The tree that is behind, we're just going to attach that flat on there. Put it a little higher because when things are farther away, they're a little higher on the horizon. So you put that a little higher. This one I have going to put pop dots on it, but I did that already. So I use this product, and you pick up the pop dots like that. And that's what I would do. And now to take the, I call these the lids off them, you just pull it off like that. Good friend Linda Lalonde showed me how to do that. Oh, there's a garbage can. How handy is that? Especially if I would put it in. So I use the poker, which is the white. So we're going to put the tree on there and put it a little lower, overlapping that tree. The snowman has them on already, so I just need to pull off the lids. And put them there. And then the gift, oops. The gift, I just need one pop dot on it. I'm going to be putting it on there. So on the snow person, so it's even brought out a little bit more. So I need the dimension on the left-hand side. This one's an old one and it keeps popping down. So if I put that pop dot on top of the snow person, then it's even dimensioned even more. So you can see that they're popped off the card just a little bit. So that's that one. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next one we're calling the long snow person, Snowman, because we have this awesome piece, which is in the stamp set. I just love this snow one. I love it, love it. And this card is a little bit longer than regular, but it does fit both ways into a letter sized envelope. So you can just put it in that kind of an envelope. All right. So when we're stamping this one, oh, I have to show you that on the card. When we're stamping this one, this is paper told. I don't know what it's called in today's world, but I have 2 layers of snowman there and 2 layers under the tree, and they're both colored just to give it some dimension. Yeah, it's the carrot, oops, is is popped up, and the hat is popped up, but the face is the bottom layer. Okay, so hoping you understand what I meant. So when I stamped this, I wanted to make sure that I could color them at the same time. So I stamped them on one piece of paper. I'm going to be coloring both of them and both trees. Okay, so again, we're going to be going with the BG 4 zeros and BG 3 zeros, and we're going to just color the snow person. So I'm going to color like we did before and with the right ones this time. So we'll color with the BG 4 zeros under the shadow of the carrot. Okay, and we actually only need one, but I'll tell you the reason that I'm coloring both at the same time is because when you're done, then you can choose the best one to be the face or the best one with the hat, and then you've had both of them colored already. So under the hat, we'll create a little bit. Don't forget this little bit on the right-hand side, giving some dimension, giving some shadowing under there. The carrot from the left-hand side. Again, from this one, under the hat. A little bit on the right hand, on the bottom, under the carrot, and coming from the left-hand side. We'll go back to BG 4 zeros to blend it in. I hope you're all still following along, and I'm hoping that I'm giving enough information so that you understand why the colors or where the colors and how to do the blending. I don't think there's many mistakes that you can make. The blops are the worst, so that's why I take those lids off. Oh, and I forgot the pom-pom, so we'll do it at the same time because I'll forget it. So BG 01. It's a little bit bigger than the snowballs were that we were doing in the first one, so you can create a bit more of a shadow on this. Just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Making that a round snowball. Okay. There. Okay. So those are done. So now we're going to be using for the hat, we're going to be using B52. These are a little bit bigger, so we're going to, the sections of the hat are a little bit bigger, so we're going to be using 3 colors to color the different areas. So I'm going to be using B52, B93, 93, and B06. I didn't hold this one up, so I will hold that up for you so you can pause it there if you want to get the different colors. Okay, so we're going to be doing the blues first, and they are the small areas on the hat. So let's just go quickly with the B52. That's the lightest color. You want to try to stay off of where the red is going to be. I kind of went over that line a little bit. Should be okay. So all the stripes, the narrow stripes, are going to be the blue on this card. The blues are a little bit small to be using 3 colors, but I wanted to be consistent using 3 colors because I'm using 3 colors in the reds. So that's why I chose to use 3 colors in the blues. I'm not really sure if it would make a difference. You can try it either way because it is a little more tedious using 3 colors. But we aren't going back and shading in between each time. So we're doing B93 now. Don't go and do that pom-pom. I almost did. So you want to carry your shading over a fair amount because we are using the 3 colors. And as you see, I'm slowly covering the different little white spots that are being left. So don't forget, we want to color both so that we have one to put on top of the other to create the layered look. Okay, so that's the second color, the third color being B06. Just a little bit of this because it's pretty bright compared to the other colors, but it does create that dimension really nicely and easily. Again, these colors are not in your typical color scheme that I have taught before in Copics. I guess what I'm trying to show in this series is that you don't have to have every marker. You can quite often, if you have a variety of colors, you can quite often find combinations that are going to work okay. And when you're using such small spots, it's just not going to be as important. Going back to the second color again, B93, try not to go everywhere with the B93 because you still want to create that little bit of light spot on the right-hand side. If you go over it with your second color, you're going to lose that first color. Just trying to help blend in this bright, but you can see how it's starting to soften already, and now it will be softened the most with the B52, that bingo color. These are pretty quick to do. We are doing the 2, and you may choose not to do that. It's just another way to use your stamps to do the paper towel effect. Like I said, I'm not really sure if there's a different name for it. Layering, maybe. Just layering, yeah, that might be a better term. We're going to do the red next, which is R11, R12, and R14. Okay, so these 3 colors. There's just such a subtle difference between R11 and R12, but there is a difference. So let's get coloring these just with the R11. You can see that I've overcolored here, the blue onto the red. It'll be okay when it's all done. And that I may choose to use this one for the bottom one. So that's what you can do because we're coloring too. And of course, if you're planning on making more than one card, have them lined up, put them all here side by side, and just color with the same color on all the images so that you don't have to keep pulling out those markers. Out of the 3 snowman cards that we're making here, this is my favorite just because it's a little unique with the size of the card and with the paper towel. It's just fun, and it has bling on it, which, you know, it's just the best when you have bling on your cards. So now we're using R12. And even though there's only one number between, you can see that there's a difference. And what I find when I add the R12 to the red is that it softens the blue. The blue is not as stark a color. Using a fair amount of the R12 because it is a subtle difference to the R11. There is a significant difference when you have it all together. So we're using the next darkest color. Really don't be too concerned. And if you're getting, this is R14, if you're getting the exact placement of your shading, don't worry about it. When you're finished, people are going to see a beautiful piece of work that you've spent time doing. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts that people appreciate, is that you spent time doing something for them. That's how I feel. So let's put in the R14 over here as well. So here we go. Now I'm going to go back with the R12 and blend that in just a little bit. Trying to remember to leave some of that lighter area on the right-hand side, because we're going to go over this with the R11. And this will blend in just that much nicer. Again, I went a little far on that square. Okay. R11, finish up the reds. These are going to be cut out, either fussy cutting or with the die cuts. Die cuts are definitely faster once you get on to knowing how to do them, that's for sure. So if you're deterred from doing the cards that I'm doing because of fussy cutting, get those die cuts because they make it simpler, that's for sure. Here we go, done with the red. We use the green for the brim, and the green is G12, G24, and G94. And that one, I'm not sure where it is. That's okay. If I can't find it, am I looking at the right one? G12, G24 and G94. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we're going to use the latest color, G12. Across the brim. So a little bit of this green here, so try to not go on his carrot nose. G12. G24 is the next color. Again, these are not your typical combination. Go across the bottom of the brim, come in from the left-hand side, even go across that top a little bit, just to give it a little bit of shape. Just that little bit of shape there. Because if it's just the one green, then it won't create that shape. Now with the G94, be very light touch. Just a little bit on that edge, just a little bit across the bottom of the brim where it's going onto his face, and just a little bit on the very, very top. I went a little heavy on that one, so let's see if I can go a little lighter on this one. All right, now we will go back with the second color, which was G24. Blend that in just a little bit. When we're going back and blending in on this narrow brim, try to be so careful to keep a little bit of the light on the front so that you can see that there's a shape to it. Okay, so here we go. There's the green. Now we're going to do his carrot, and that is YR00. And oops, that's YR00 and YR04. We're going a little brighter with the carrot because it is going to be cut out separately and going to be popped up a little bit just to create some dimension. So we're going to do some there to show that it's going into the snow and across the bottom. Just using the two colors because it's such a small area. Blend that in. Oh, that's blended nice. Okay, and again, we're going to use that black pen, this Copic Multiliner, so that we can brighten up the eyes. The eyes especially, so just be careful to not make them any bigger than what they are. I've chosen that I'm probably going to use this one and cut out as the bottom because I didn't do a really nice job of staying within the lines there. So this will be the base for the paper towel or the layering. Paper towel's been around for a long time. I did my fair share of it in the 80s. And I still have a project or two on the go that I've been working on. So, all right, that is the snowman. So now we're going to go to the tree, and the tree, we'll do the trunk, which was E35 and E18. So we'll do those first. Just gonna put that light color E35 on first, and then E18 to create that shadow under the tree. This is a really nice stamp of a tree, very simplistic, can be used in lots of different scenes that you can make up with different stamp sets. Let's blend it in with the E35. Okay. The tree itself is made with YG 91, 91, 95, and 97. 597. Okay, so these are a dusty green, a khaki green flavor. And so you can, again, it'll look like it's a little farther back because the snowman is brighter colors, brighter greens. So that is the main focus of the card. The tree is just a little added feature. So let's just color with our YG 91. Do the whole part of it. Doesn't really matter which direction you do it in. Doesn't matter if you do lines or circles, because we're going to be going back over with that YG 91 as the third color. All right. So I've left some little white spots, and that's okay because we'll be going back over it. So now we're going to use YG 95. Start creating that depth, dimension. It's flicking from the side. Okay, we'll go and do this tree as well, same time. It's always the fastest way to do the coloring. If you do everything in the scene with that's using that color. Oops, I'm gonna flick this. I was thinking this was the third color. Flick across. Then we're going to use the YG 97 just to put in a little bit of darkness, just to create some more depth, a little bit more flicking as the sections of the tree get a little bit bigger. There's so many different classes you can take about using Copics. Kind of every thing. If you're doing people, use the techniques. If you're doing nature, this technique. If you're doing cartoon, which is more like what we're doing today, there's different techniques. As I was saying, my grandson started coloring the anime, and totally different technique when you're doing anime. There's no blending. So if you don't like blending, you may want to start coloring anime. Going back to my second color, which is YG 95. We'll start blending this in. Okay, watch you don't cover everything with the second color. I don't know how many times I've picked up the wrong color. Not during this, I did in the one snowman, but and you just, oh, it's so frustrating. But all you did was lose some depth, so it's okay. Just keep coloring. Most people won't notice. And if they do, then invite them to come to the next class. But of course, you can keep looking at this class as many times as you want to, because I think it's going to be on YouTube. What's that?
And on our website.
Oh, on the website, that's right. Which I'm mortified that I'm going to be on YouTube, but oh well. All in the name of teaching Copics. So we need to do the star yet. Oh, there it is. Y32 and Y38 are the colors that I chose for this. These two colors. Y means yellow. These are definitely not a yellow that I would say. I would say they're a beautiful creamy orange color. But they still create this lovely star color with the greens that we chose. I really like YGs for trees because they're a little more realistic looking to me, but that's me. We are done the coloring for this card. So now I'm going to show you how to assemble it. I have cut mine out, of course. This is the card that we're doing. So I have my base, and the base is 7 inches by 8 inches, and the fold is, this is 4 inches. So you fold in the middle of the 8. Okay, and this is 7 inches long. And like I said, it fits in a letter sized card. I am going to ink the edges of this paper that we used from the paper that is available at Teresa's store, or maybe in her garage, I'm not sure, but I know that she is making up kits of these cards. So we're going to attach this to the base like that, just like so. Oh, should be up a little bit farther. There we go. And so the next part that you would put on is, oh, there's already a bling on there. It's not supposed to be there. All right, so this is from this paper pack again, and it's this one here. And so I cut it so that it was 4 inches wide. I think it is, but I just made sure. And then I ripped the top so that it will blend into this back paper just that much nicer. And if you rip towards you, then you're going to see the white paper core. If you rip away, you won't see the white paper core, but I wanted that paper core so it would blend in to that. So I'm going to ink the edges. So we will attach that. I find the tape that is in the runner that I use is so strong. I just love it. I just love it, love it. All right, so now the tree, we will glue or adhere the bottom tree right to the card. I put it over to this side. This one will be popped up. Put these done for you. Oh well. You don't need to use lots of pop dots unless you want to. It will still create that dimension. So I've just put it on top of there. The snowman. So I cut out this one completely. So I will adhere that snowman there. And he will just be flat. All right. So we'll just put it there. Okay. This one is going to be the parts that I'm going to pop up. So I've cut this part out. I need that carrot by itself. I didn't just pop it up with the hat. I made the decision to pop it up by itself. So the best thing would have been to do another stamp, but I made the decision not to. So just cut that little guy out, but be so careful that you don't cut the brim, because we're going to be using that part as well. Popped up. There's a little carrot. Cut out the brim. Don't forget, move the paper, not your scissors. Okay. So we're going to pop up the hat. Take them off with that poker bit. Just put them up the middle of the hat because we're going to shape it just a little bit. So you're just going to bend this hat, make it a little bit round like this. Doesn't create a lot of depth, but it does, it just makes it just a little bit more realistic. It's a little harder to bend it up here. Just do it the best you can. So I have it and it's rounded somewhat. I'll take the tops off, the lids off of these. You're going to put this on your snowman on there. Whoops, see, got it over. There we go. Oh, not sure why it's twisting like that. So, well, I'm pulling the whole thing off now. Let's try this again. I think that's what it is that I didn't have the bottom on there properly. If you want that over there, because I have shaped this, I'm going to tape that right down so that it sticks right there. So then again, this is out a little farther than that is. Okay, and then we have the carrot, and we're going to put a pop dot about halfway up. So when you're going to be doing something this small, I just cut a small piece of the pop dot. I'm going to take that, and that's where this poker is just amazing because I can't imagine trying to do that with my fingers. Take that lid off of there. It's not going to come off. Not today. There we go. Okay. And then put that carrot on there. And because we put the pop dot halfway up, it keeps it popped up a little bit more. Oh, the finishing touch. So we have some bling here, and we're going to take it off with the poker and place it on snowflakes in the center. Always use an odd number when you are putting something like this on. It's nicer to have it just on 3 or 5 instead of, oh man, there we go. There we go. Okay, so this card is finished. So I hope you really enjoyed these. You can pause it at any time to see how I did things, to get the different numbers of Copics that you needed. And like I said, Teresa will be having these in kits. I'm not sure if the kits will be separate or if it will be the 3 together. You can 3 together. These ones will be in a kit, 3 together. The paper is all available at Teresa's store as well, but of course it'll be in the kits. Anyway, enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I did. And sorry about the faux pas about the, the snowman parts. And it's hard not to do that when you're talking to yourself. Thanks so much, guys.